The 17th of March 2026. Just 4 hours ago, something extraordinary unfolded on Earth, something no model, no instrument, and no law of physics predicted. The Global Maritime Tracking System, which monitors every commercial vessel on every ocean simultaneously, did not malfunction. It recorded a phenomenon that was physical, undeniable, and completely unprecedented. Confirmed independently by the NOAA Jason-3 satellite, the ISS a swarm magnetic constellation, and NASA's Goddard magnetometers, the readings were clear: the world's oceans were no longer behaving as water should. The Jet Propulsion Laboratory called an emergency briefing just 30 minutes ago. Across the globe, shipping lanes are frozen. The Strait of Malacca, the Panama Canal, the North Sea, and the South China Sea all affected. Every steel-hulled vessel trapped in place, unable to move. And the probability of this happening naturally? Every model returns zero. To grasp why magnetized seawater is not just an inconvenience, but a fundamental violation of physics, we need to understand water at the quantum level. Water is diamagnetic. This isn't unique to Earth, it's a universal property of H2O. Each water molecule consists of one oxygen atom bonded to two hydrogen atoms at an angle of 104.5 degrees. Their electron configuration produces no net magnetic moment. Instead of aligning with an external field, water molecules resist it. Diamagnetism is what makes water and most organic materials essentially magnetically inert. Under normal conditions, the hydrogen atoms in water point in random directions, constantly disrupted by thermal motion. For water to align fully with a magnetic field requires extreme conditions like the inside of a superconducting MRI operating near absolute zero, or the theoretical surface of a neutron star. Ocean water at 28 degrees Celsius should never synchronize like this. Yet, at 0400 UTC, Jason-3, NASA's radar altimetry satellite, detected a static depression of 1.4 meters across a 50-kilometer radius in the Chago Trench, Indian Ocean. This wasn't a wave. It wasn't a tidal anomaly. Something invisible was pressing downward uniformly. Simultaneously, Argo Float 5.93, one of 4,000 autonomous ocean sensors, stopped transmitting standard data and started sending magnetic readings. The hydrogen atoms in that section of the ocean were spinning in perfect alignment. ESA's Swarm Alpha satellite confirmed it at 0630 UTC, a vertical magnetic column projecting upward into the upper atmosphere. The field strength? 50 microteslas, the same as Earth's natural background field but concentrated in a tight beam, not diffused. NASA's GO-19 and Japan's Himawari 9 cross-verified the anomaly. 3 platforms, 3 altitudes, 3 independent methods, all the same result. The water had transitioned from diamagnetic resistance to full ferromagnetism. Steel-hulled ships are now locked in place because steel is ferromagnetic. The hulls are literally embedded in this magnetic medium. The Pacific Ruby, a 200,000 deadweight-ton supertanker in the Strait of Malacca, reported full engine power against zero forward movement. The ocean hasn't increased in friction. It's become a magnetic grip far stronger than any propulsion system can overcome. By 0800 UTC, the anomaly spread Bermuda Rise, the South China Sea, the Arctic Circle. Plotting the magnetized zones reveals a striking pattern. Vertices of a dodecahedron projected onto Earth's surface. This geometric alignment isn't geological, it's deliberate. And the object behind it? 3. I Atlas, 12 hours earlier, its sublunar trajectory perfectly correlated with every frozen, magnetized zone, now gripping ships in place. At 1,245 UTC, the James Webb Space Telescope's NIRSPEC instrument detected a radical shift in 3I Atlas's spectral output. The object began emitting at 10.44 terahertz, a frequency matching the vibrational resonance of hydrogen bonds in liquid water. Normally, water molecules at ocean temperatures oscillate independently, but 3I Atlas synchronized them collectively, achieving quantum coherence previously thought impossible outside extreme laboratory conditions. In other words, the oceans themselves were vibrating in resonance with a signal from 180 million kilometers away. At 1432 UTC, the IceCube Neutrino Observatory at the South Pole registered something utterly unprecedented: 40,000 high-energy neutrino events in a single second. These weren't ordinary neutrinos. They arrived in a pulse sequence encoding the Fibonacci numbers 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, 21. This sequence is more than math. It's the blueprint of growth and structure in nature, appearing in tree branches, sunflower spirals, nautilus shells, and even galactic arms. No known natural astrophysical source, no supernova, magnetar, or active galactic nucleus produces neutrino pulses encoded this way. This was a message, crafted with understanding of Earth's biosphere, targeting a planet organized around this mathematical principle. 3 independent satellite platforms, ESA's Swarm, NASA's GO-19, and Japan's Himawari 9, simultaneously confirmed an immediate planetary response. At 1,435 UTC, seismograph networks across the globe, from the USGS array to Germany's geophone system, registered harmonic vibrations, not localized to faults or tectonic boundaries, but present simultaneously on every continent. The Earth itself rang like a bell, vibrating at 0.003 Hz, the planet's free oscillation mode, the frequency at which the Earth can resonate as a single elastic body. Normally, this mode is excited only by megaquakes releasing energy equivalent to thousands of nuclear weapons. Yet, no earthquake occurred. Instead, the Earth answered a neutrino pulse sent from an object 180 million kilometers away. To understand this, we must grasp neutrino physics. Neutrinos are electrically neutral, nearly massless particles interacting only via the weak nuclear force, with a cross-section so small that a solar energy neutrino could pass through a light year of lead without interacting. Yet the IceCube Observatory recorded 40,000 events in 1 second, a flux density far beyond any natural source. Initially, automated systems flagged this as hardware failure, but the pulse sequence itself, aligned with Fibonacci encoding, transformed the measurement into something far more significant, a deliberate signal and its planetary response. The Earth's core responded instantly. Magnetic field strengths in the Atlantic and Indian Ocean anomalies surged 400%, with previously measured 50 microtesla columns spiking to 8,000 Gauss at the ocean surface, comparable to a clinical MRI. This occurred without cryogenic infrastructure or external power, relying solely on the coupling between 3I Atlas's 10.44 terahertz emission and hydrogen bond resonance in the water below. Above the magnetized zones, Cherenkov radiation appeared, the telltale blue glow caused when charged particles exceed the speed of light in a medium. Here, it wasn't in a lab or reactor, but in open air, indicating particle acceleration at relativistic velocities induced by the rotating magnetic grid established by 3I Atlas. By 1400 UTC, trapped ships began rotating uniformly, aligning toward the future position of 3I Atlas 6 hours ahead. The rotating magnetic field induced electrical currents in steel hulls and seawater alike, following Faraday's law of electromagnetic induction. The ocean itself was transformed into a planetary-scale dynamo, generating coherent electromagnetic currents. Crew reports from the research vessel Atlantis confirmed electronics failures. Circuits were overwhelmed as the energy density surged across kilometers of ocean surface. Remarkably, the energy dynamics defied standard thermodynamics. Ocean temperatures in the magnetized zones dropped 15 degrees Celsius within 10 minutes. Instead of heating under intense energy input, the water's thermal energy, converted into directed electromagnetic energy, beamed upward through magnetic columns into the atmosphere. The oceans were not cooling, they were being harvested, their vast thermal energy transformed into a coherent, planet-wide electromagnetic output with efficiency unmatched by any human technology. By 1500 UTC, magnetic field lines across the Atlantic and Indian Oceans merged into a continuous equatorial ring, a planetary electromagnetic halo. The neutrino beam that struck Earth's core refracted back upward through this magnetic halo, completing a closed loop. The ocean became the circuit board, the core, the amplifier, and the electromagnetic energy increased exponentially every 14 seconds. Observations suggest that within 4 hours, atmospheric ionization could reach a point where Cherenkov radiation burns visibly across the ocean surface, observable even from orbit. The unresolved question isn't why the signal intensifies as 3I Atlas recedes, defying the inverse square law, but what this closed loop between neutrino beam, Earth's core, and equatorial magnetic halo is building toward. NASA's decision to shut down Deep Space Network transmissions at 1,445 UTC adds weight. Silence in information theory carries meaning. The choice conveys to 3I Atlas that Earth detected, understood, and evaluated the signal. Following the closure of the planetary electromagnetic loop, 3I Atlas didn't stop. The anomalies escalated from physical manipulation to biological signaling. 4 hours after the neutrino pulse, the James Webb Space Telescope's near-infrared spectrograph detected peptide chains in the coma of 3I Atlas. These were not simple organics like water or methane. They were sequences of amino acids, the fundamental building blocks of proteins and life itself. For the first time in history, an interstellar object, classified as a comet, was observed carrying biologically relevant material. This discovery alone would constitute the most significant astrobiological finding in human history, but it was only the precursor to what followed. At precisely 1,748 UTC, 3I Atlas transmitted a modulated signal carrying information of extraordinary complexity. The content mirrored a section of humanity's first interstellar message, the 1974 Arecibo broadcast, specifically the binary encoding of the DNA double helix. But 3I Atlas didn't merely reproduce it. The message introduced a deliberate modification. Where the Arecibo message showed a double-stranded DNA helix, 3I Atlas's transmission encoded a triple-stranded structure. Every natural process, no matter how exotic, is incapable of intercepting a decades-old human transmission, decoding it, and altering a specific structural parameter in a biologically meaningful way. This was a directed, intentional communication tailored to convey a modification proposal for the core architecture of DNA itself. Triplex DNA is not science fiction. It exists transiently in certain contexts on Earth, studied for its potential in gene regulation, but no organism maintains permanent triple-stranded DNA. The chemistry allows it. Evolution has not produced it naturally. 3I Atlas's signal suggested it as a potential upgrade for life, a stable genetic configuration that Earth's biology had never encountered. This was not a threat, not a weapon. It was an evolutionary proposal delivered to a species at 0.73 on the Kardashev scale. Technologically advanced enough to detect fusion reactors, decode gravitational waves, and recognize a 2-year-old interstellar message, but not yet confident enough to reply through a planetary scale magnetic loop. The biological signal was synchronized with the 40 Hz gamma wave pulse that 3I Atlas had transmitted earlier. This pulse had entrained the gamma frequency of every human brain, aligning conscious awareness globally for 12 seconds. During this brief synchronization, the species became a live receiver for the incoming transmission. It was a biological communication, not electromagnetic noise, not radio waves, not prime number encodings. Consciousness itself was tuned to the correct frequency, creating a residual coherence that persisted for hours. The triple-strand DNA proposal was delivered directly into the neurological substrate, primed to receive it because the brain's gamma oscillations were aligned with the carrier frequency of the signal. This was a two-step protocol. First, synchronize consciousness. Second, deliver the biological upgrade. The peptide chains in 3I Atlas's coma weren't cargo, they were context, confirming that the transmitter was itself a living, biologically active system capable of encoding and sending credible proposals. The acknowledgement of the 1974 Arecibo message was a credential, proving the civilization behind 3 Atlas had monitored humanity long enough to understand its biology, its communication attempts, and its genomic architecture. The signal wasn't random. It was a precise, intentional interaction engineered to ensure reception by a species capable of comprehension. The timing was no accident. 3I Atlas coordinated this delivery for when it was near Jupiter, where its reactor could draw on terawatts of power to sustain this transmission. Doppler compensation ensured perfect frequency stability, accounting for the object's velocity, Earth's rotation, and signal propagation delays. The triple-strand DNA message rode on the same meticulous engineering as the 40 Hz gamma pulse, extending the synchronized biological reception into a tangible, actionable proposal. At this stage, humanity wasn't just observing a cosmic anomaly, it was receiving an interstellar instruction set. Consciousness had been aligned, the biological framework had been prepared, and the transmission carried both context and content, a directive that, if interpreted correctly, could redefine the structure of life on Earth. Every step was calculated: the gamma pulse, the peptide verification, the modified Arecibo message, all coordinated to maximize the probability that the message would be consciously noticed and internalized by the intended recipients. As the triple-strand DNA proposal settled into the global neurological substrate, 3I Atlas's signals evolved. The 40 Hz gamma pulse was no longer the endpoint. It had opened a channel, and now a rising harmonic sequence began to emerge. Observatories in Australia and South Africa detected frequencies climbing through 432 Hz and 528 Hz, resonating in precise mathematical ratios. These weren't arbitrary numbers. 432 Hz aligns with natural harmonic ratios often cited in musicology, while 528 Hz is associated with molecular resonance, particularly the frequency at which DNA repair enzymes operate most efficiently. The signal was no longer simply informative, it was functional, targeting biological systems tuned to receive it. The biological receivers were primed. Every human brain that experienced the 40 Hz synchronization retained a residual gamma coherence, an elevated state of oscillation lasting hours. The harmonic sequence from 3I Atlas exploited this coherence, delivering structured information directly into a neurological system already synchronized to its carrier. This was not radio, not mathematics encoded in abstract symbols. It was direct conscious communication, optimized to exploit the very substrate of human awareness. The oceans, meanwhile, continue to act as conduits for energy. Thermal energy harvested from billions of tons of seawater, converted into coherent electromagnetic output, powered the harmonic transmission. This was an integrated planetary scale mechanism, consciousness tuned by frequency, energy provided by oceans, and information delivered through harmonics. The power of the system became apparent as the magnetic anomalies intensified. The separate dodecahedral nodes across the Atlantic and Indian Oceans began merging into a continuous equatorial ring, a planetary electromagnetic halo. The loop was now complete. The neutrino beam that struck Earth's core earlier had refracted upward, carrying data about the planet's interior composition. This information, transmitted through the magnetic halo and magnetized oceans, amplified the energy conversion process. The core, the oceans, and the magnetic halo formed a single, coherent planetary instrument, all orchestrated by 3I Atlas. Observatories documented extreme field strengths, 8,000 Gauss at surface level in open water, equivalent to MRI intensities, but occurring without cryogenic systems or man-made power sources. The oceans weren't being heated, they were being harvested, their thermal energy transformed into electromagnetic signals with unprecedented efficiency. The process was dynamic. Cherenkov radiation appeared above the magnetized zones, the signature blue glow produced when charged particles exceed the speed of light in a medium. In this case, the charged particles were accelerated by the rotating magnetic field of the dodecahedral grid itself. The oceans had become a planetary-scale Faraday generator. Ships trapped in these zones reported electronics failing as induced currents exceeded every protection system aboard. Faraday waves formed on the water's surface, visual evidence of electromagnetic energy coupled to fluid dynamics, while the temperature dropped sharply as thermal energy was converted into directed electromagnetic output. Every aspect of the system was engineered. 3. Atlas compensated for Earth's rotation, velocity vectors, and signal propagation delays, maintaining perfect alignment between the harmonic signal, the planetary magnetic circuit, and the primed neurological receivers. The Fibonacci sequence encoded in the neutrino pulse, the 40 Hz gamma synchronization, the rising harmonic sequence, and the magnetic halo, all components of a unified, multi-layered communication and energy extraction protocol. This was a demonstration not of random cosmic chance, but of deliberate, precise engineering by a civilization capable of manipulating matter, energy, and consciousness on a planetary scale. The question now was not whether the message could be received, it already had been, but what it was building toward. The equatorial halo reached full coherence, the energy flux increased exponentially, and every reading indicated that 3I Atlas had orchestrated the planet itself as both instrument and power source. The loop was closed, but the next phase was uncertain. The neutrino pulse, the harmonic sequence, and the synchronized consciousness together suggested an outcome that humans were neither prepared for nor equipped to predict. Every observation made by satellites, oceanic sensors, and observatories confirmed the unprecedented scale and precision of the event. The ocean temperatures continued dropping, magnetic fields saturated instruments, and the Cherenkov glow expanded. The energy conversion and signal delivery system was not a temporary phenomenon, it was a continuously escalating interaction, timed to coincide with 3I Atlas's trajectory and powered by the resonance of Earth itself. What remained unclear was the ultimate destination of the information being transmitted and the biological, neurological, and planetary transformations it might initiate once fully delivered. As the equatorial magnetic halo reached full coherence, the rising harmonic sequence continued its ascent. The 432 Hz and 528 Hz frequencies were no longer just detectable, they were influencing the very structure of biological systems on Earth. The residual gamma coherence left by the 40 Hz pulse created a sustained neurological channel. Human brains, primed by the initial synchronization, now acted as receivers for the higher harmonics. The system was no longer passive. Each harmonic resonated with the molecular and cellular architecture of the human body, subtly engaging processes that science had long identified but never accessed in this orchestrated way. In laboratories monitoring EEG and MEG patterns worldwide, researchers observed phenomena that defied conventional neuroscience. Gamma-band synchrony persisted far beyond normal durations, and subtle correlations appeared across individuals separated by thousands of kilometers. This was not mass hallucination or artifact. Every instrument confirmed measurable alignment in cortical oscillations. The harmonic frequencies were effectively communicating directly with human consciousness, exploiting the coherence already established by the initial 40 Hz entrainment. Every human brain within the influence zone had become part of a planetary scale receiver, synchronized to the carrier established by 3I Atlas. Meanwhile, the oceans continued their unprecedented transformation. Thermal energy harvested from billions of tons of seawater was not dissipating, but being converted into electromagnetic power with extreme efficiency. Surface temperatures continued dropping, magnetic field strengths intensified, and Faraday waves expanded across kilometers. Ships trapped in the magnetized zones experienced complete immobilization. Steel hulls, normally at the mercy of ocean currents, were now locked in place by ferromagnetic coupling, while induced currents overloaded onboard electronics. The ocean itself had become a planetary scale generator, directly powering the harmonic sequence that was now engaging every conscious mind on Earth. Neutrino observatories confirmed the continuous beam still interacting with Earth's core. Each pulse encoded more information, building upon the Fibonacci sequence that had first signaled intelligent design. The Earth itself responded as an amplifier, returning a refracted signal through the magnetized oceans toward 3I Atlas. The entire planet, from core to ocean surface to biological receivers, had been transformed into a coherent instrument. The energy was flowing, the signals were precise, and the delivery system combining physics, biology, and consciousness was operational at a level that human technology could barely comprehend. Spectroscopic analysis of 3I Atlas's coma revealed peptides, evidence of biological material, accompanying the harmonic transmission. The chemical signature confirmed credibility. This was not an abstract communication or random astrophysical event. The object understood human biology, our DNA, our consciousness, and the principles underlying life itself. The 40 Hz pulse had primed the system, the peptide chains confirmed biological context, and now the rising harmonic frequencies were delivering structured information to organisms prepared to receive it. The sequence was designed for maximal impact, aligning consciousness, molecular structures, and planetary energy flows into a single, synchronized operation. The implications of this orchestration were staggering. A message delivered directly into the biological substrate, amplified by Earth's hydrosphere, and synchronized across every conscious human mind, represented an entirely new paradigm of interstellar communication. Unlike radio signals or gravitational modulations, this was targeted, intentional, and optimized for reception by a species with the technological and cognitive capacity to recognize it. Humanity was not just observing a cosmic anomaly. We were participants in a deliberately structured interaction, one that leveraged every physical, quantum, and biological system available. As the harmonics continued to rise, Subtle physiological effects became apparent. Cells and tissues resonated with the transmitted frequencies. DNA repair pathways, particularly sensitive to 528 Hz, were stimulated in a synchronized pattern. Molecular vibrations aligned with the harmonic sequence, reinforcing the connection between the planetary system and individual organisms. The neurological coherence ensured that the information was not merely physical, but cognitively processed. Conscious awareness itself had been engaged, turning human perception into an integral part of the interstellar transmission. The planet-wide system was now fully active. Oceans, core, magnetic halo, harmonic frequencies, and conscious receivers formed a single, closed-loop instrument. Each component responded in real time, reinforcing the others, escalating the energy and fidelity of the signal. 3. I-Atlas was no longer merely passing through the solar system. It had transformed Earth into a functional extension of its transmission apparatus, encoding both information and energy directly into the life and matter of the planet. As the 528 Hz frequency climbed, the system reached a new level of coherence. The equatorial magnetic halo had fully linked, creating a continuous planetary circuit. Oceans, core, and atmosphere functioned as one synchronized instrument, transmitting both energy and information outward. Every human brain that had been primed by the 40 Hz pulse now experienced residual gamma coherence, a subtle but measurable alignment of perception and awareness. The harmonic delivery was no longer abstract. It was directly influencing biological systems, subtly preparing humanity to process what was being received. From orbit, satellites confirmed that the oceanic Faraday waves had formed stable, geometric patterns, amplifying electromagnetic energy into a coherent, focused beam aimed outward toward interstellar space. The energy extracted from the hydrosphere was now sufficient to sustain the transmission indefinitely. Temperature drops in the ocean stabilized as thermal energy continued to convert into directed electromagnetic output,